Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
College football can't allow Notre Dame to have the type of, year they have and schedule they have, and honestly put them up against other teams. Because Notre Dame looks like they're going to be a decent football team. They could lose, I think, next week to Texas A&M, Joe. Right. I don't think it's a great football team, but still a ranked team. And then run the table and still be in the playoff and absolutely beat nobody. The worst schedule I may have ever seen in college football is Notre Dame this year.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Quarterback or coach has to answer for it.
Right.
Goff, Campbell. Listen, I'm not firing Dan Campbell already. I might be shipping Goff. I don't know, but I think the Lions. Again, it's week 1. Are we overreacting? I think the panic meter in Detroit is blaring. I think people are wondering, when do the Pistons start?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Great to be back with you here on the show as we get closer to another week of football. In fact, the big game in the National Football League tonight. We'll have a full preview on the show. Also, very special guest, Craig Carton, is going to join me in a few minutes. We'll go over the latest landscape in football and also talk about the show, which you can catch every single day here on SportsGrid. Also, the latest news, notes, and sports betting as well. Some Major League Baseball updates as we close in on baseball's postseason. Closing in on the end of the baseball season as well. So I hope you enjoy the show today. Let's get right to it. We'll start off with a sports betting story that broke yesterday. One of the bigger stories we've seen thus far in basketball. 3 players, Michael Robinson, Steven Vasquez, and Jalen Weaver, were involved in an NCAA investigation into sports betting violations. They had played for Fresno State, with Vasquez transferring to San Jose State. It began after Fresno State had a sports betting integrity monitor flagged, according to the NCAA. Robinson and Vasquez had been roommates, communicated via text in 2025 about Robinson intentionally underperforming in a game. They, along with a third party, placed $2,200 in bets on the underperformance, which resulted in $15,000 payout. And Robinson also placed 13 fantasy sports bets on his own performance. So keep an eye, of course, on that investigation. Also, by the way, 4 suspects have now been arrested in the shooting that involved Florida State linebacker Ethan Pritchard. He was ambushed and shot in the back of the head while dropping off family outside of an apartment in Havana, Florida. Back in August, they believe the shooting was mistaken identity. 3 of the suspects face multiple murder charges in terms of attempt, while the 4th was charged with a probation violation. All right, now let's go to the field. Quarterback situations are not getting any better in the National Football League. As soon as you got to go to a backup, you know you're in trouble. That is indeed the case with the San Francisco 49ers. Only saving grace is this week. They're going to play the Saints, but looks like Brock Purdy's going to miss multiple weeks. Mac Jones is going to start for the Saints this week, so we're going to see a major shift in the line. Although, Frank, I have not checked that. I saw 3.5 last check. San Francisco can't be the case, I think, going into New Orleans today. Tell me if they updated that, and I'll give that to you guys here on the show. Here's Kyle Shanahan without Kittle, without Purdy, and even more.
All right, injuries for today. Yetur will not practice, knee. McCaffrey will not practice, calf/vet day. Trent Williams won't practice, knee/vet day. Nick Bosa won't practice, vet day. Brock Purdy won't practice, left shoulder, toe. Juwan Jennings won't practice, shoulder. Jordan James, limited finger. Jordan Watkins, limited ankle. Ben Barch, limited knee and elbow. Go ahead.
Any further sense about whether Brock will be able to play on Sunday?
I think it's a long shot.
George Kittle's hamstring, is there any more details or just a...
No, that's going to be some time.
Is it possible that Purdy's injury could be a multi-week thing?
That's possible.
And that's the toe more so than the shoulder.
Yes.
The Purdy news broke about an hour ago. It looks like San Francisco still could be favorites going into the weekend in New Orleans, but I got to tell you, it will not be much. This could be a pick'em. All right, tonight, not the case in a pick'em. I've seen this line juggle a little bit, but right now the Packers are 3.5-point favorites. You know, some steam a little bit on the Commanders. This could go to 3 eventually, but right now you are laying the hook. Total 48.5. We'll have a preview this game coming up. All right, Cowboys injuries. Let's get to the latest. We got Deron Bland, their great cornerback, going to be sidelined potentially for weeks. The Cowboys can ill afford to lose any players on defense, but that is indeed the case. How about Lamar Jackson? Did you see this clip over the weekend? He apologized to a fan for a shoving incident. A fan reached out, grabbed Lamar Jackson, and the fan essentially was grabbed back. Here's Lamar Jackson on that exchange.
John said that you had a lengthy discussion with Eric about the incident with the fan. I'm not to share what was said, but have you heard from the league about that, and what's your reaction about that whole thing a few days later?
Yeah, Eric talked to me about it. I mean, I believe everyone seen what happened. Don't get me wrong, I didn't try to, it just happened. Like, I got pushed. I'm like, what? I thought I was like outside. I wasn't even thinking about me being out there on the field, but my apologies to that whoever that was. I don't know who it was. My apologies to him. Like, just chill next time. Just, you can talk trash and stuff, but keep your hands to yourself. That's all I can say.
Grabbing quarterbacks, a new thing in the NFL. All right, Malik Neighbors had his issues apparently with Brian Dable on the sidelines of that game with the Giants this past weekend. You may have seen a couple of clips with that. It looked like Dable got over it pretty quick, and they were high-fiving each other. But here's Malik Neighbors on what happened after or during the game.
Just 12 targets and 5 catches. Just not how I want to end the day off. I know everybody was more focused on just me overall being mad I wasn't getting the ball, and that wasn't at all what I was being, what I was concerned about. I had 12 targets, so why would I argue about getting the ball if I had 12 targets? But, just overall, just how I played. And I don't think that why I was frustrated. Like I said, I was trying to get the offense going. I was trying to get people to let's get rolling. The lights was on, the game was on. It's time to play. I feel like that just got pushed over, and everybody was talking about just how I was have an attitude and stuff like that. It's just, I got an NBF. I got a natural face. That's just what it is. Like, it's my face. I don't know. Like, when y'all talk to me, I look the same way every time. I don't know just how I am, but I guess I got a smile more.
Giants got to also play a little bit better. That would help him. All right, tonight a very good NC State team in college football takes on Wake Forest. They're 7.5-point favorites. Total of 52.5. We'll have this game covered for you tonight. In-game, live, game time decisions. One college football game this evening, several tomorrow. And then, of course, we've got some big ones coming up this weekend. Speaking of which, Missouri's quarterback after their big win after Kansas, Sam Horn, going to miss the rest of the season after leg surgery. He was hurt in the 25th ranked season opener of the August 28th game. It was the great game that the Tigers played. And needless, they're going to need another quarterback moving forward. Wisconsin's quarterback Billy Edwards Jr. not going to play against Alabama. That line has moved, tied up to 20.5-point favorites. But the last time the Tide were 20-point favorites, or close to it, they lost. Meanwhile, Ryan Williams, their great wide receiver, is going to play this week against Wisconsin. That's who they are favored against. All right, over to Major League Baseball we go. The Detroit Tigers cruising toward the postseason. I'll see them this weekend here in South Florida. They scored 5 runs in the 8th inning for their second straight blowout of the Yankees, 11-1. They lost by 10 runs for the third time ever in back-to-back games. Boy, we've heard from Aaron Boone a lot this season, haven't we? All right, let's do it one more time.
Yeah, I thought Carlos obviously threw the ball well, gave us a 6 strong there. Just didn't get much going offensively, and then kind of chipped away there that inning. Doval comes in and gets a couple big outs after Mark got the strikeout. And then just obviously got away from us there in the in the 8th when Camilo went back out. So, these nights are frustrating, obviously, so, but it's that time of year we gotta get over it and get ready for tomorrow. But, obviously they've been able to really add on, late in some, close games, early.
Astros get the 200th home run from Carlos Correa on their way to beating the Blue Jays 3-2. Maybe that's a postseason matchup. We'll find out. How about the right now, I would say the Texas Rangers' hottest team in baseball. Fair to say. They beat the Brewers yesterday 6-3. Jake Berger is back. He homered twice yesterday for them. Speaking of back, the Dodgers got their healthy pitcher back. Blake Snell, 11 strikeouts. The Dodgers sweep the Rockies. That's not a surprise. Great to have Craig Carton back on the air here at SportsGrid. We're going to tell you all about his new show, which debuted last week, and we'll preview what's to come next here on NewsWire.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes what. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I was looking at through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Maybe he hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls and anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
If a game is on the line,
give me the Navy kicker.
Oh,
the guy's going into battle in 2 weeks. He can't make an extra point. Come on.
From a mindset perspective, yeah. I'm not. Listen, we thank them for their service. I love them. Okay.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if you have a bet and you have an academy kicker with a field goal or an extra point, you got to hold your breath.
27 yards. You know,
27 yards. The kid shanked it from like 30.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We'll check in with Craig Carton in just a couple of minutes, but first let's go back to Major League Baseball for a minute. As I mentioned, big home run yesterday for Carlos Correa. Not many hit 200 in their Major League career. We talk so much about 400, 500. I mean, Correa has had a fantastic career to this point. Obviously has a lot of time to go. Maybe he'll hit 300, 400 seems to be probably a stretch. Yanier Diaz, though, hit the game-winning home run of that game, as I mentioned, 3-2 the final. But here's Correa reaching what has to be a significant milestone for him.
Congrats on 200 career homers tonight. How does it feel to get that one under your belt?
It feels great. It feels great. You know, a lot of great moments in your career, but you know, as you keep playing and you keep climbing in this game, then you know, cool things like that happen, and definitely it's a cool one. My kids were very excited.
Was it important for you guys to kind of come back and respond like this?
Yeah, it was very important. After last night and then them tying the game and coming back again. The homer by Giner, it was one of the best homers of the season, and for sure. So then Abreu making the adjustments and going out there and be lights out like he's always been. It was a very good win.
Now moving over to football, there's a lot of expectations on both the Washington Commanders and Green Bay Packers. Both teams won in week 1. And if you look at the current line on the FanDuel Sportsbook, it would appear that they kind of believe the Packers are a little bit better than the Commanders, fair to say, going into the season. If you check most of the books operating right now, it is Green Bay -3.5 with very light juice. I'm seeing 102, 105 in some spots. Leads me to believe that this could be a 3, maybe, by the time the game goes off. Total of 48.5. Two great quarterbacks squaring off, of course, Jordan Love. Some injuries on the Packers side. Washington seems to be pretty clean going into the game. Let's get a preview of it with head coach Dan Quinn and quarterback Jaden Daniels of the Commanders as we enter
Hey, Coach,
Thursday.
this week, what have you seen from the team as they get ready for tomorrow night's game?
Yeah, you may not see like you can still get better. I guess that's the first thing, Donna, to say. What can we dig into? What can we improve upon? It doesn't always have to be just the speed or the skill. So we wanted to really dig in and make sure, could our communication, could we get that part right? The movements, together. And again, our second lap all together, finding those roles, how we fit in. But really, I said, man, like embrace the chaos. That's what a short week is. And it's awesome. So embrace it, knowing that they did everything they're supposed to do. They're ready to go fight and play, and now we'll go take it on the road.
When you go to a new stadium, is there anything that you try and do to kind of get acquainted with kind of that place? And then when you think about Lambeau and the history there, is there anything special for you about going to play a game there?
To answer your first question, no. I mean, I kind of just go and, be in the present moment. So I don't really try to do anything in particular, but just be able to play a night game at Lambeau Field. Growing up, you hear about the history of Green Bay and everything. So I'm super excited to go in that stadium and be able to experience that.
I think it's going to be a good game tonight, but we won't know for sure until they kick off because the Packers are just one of those teams that look like a potential Super Bowl contender. But if you watch their season last season, they fell really short in the end. So what will change this time around? They got off to a really good start against Detroit, basically blowing them out from start to finish. It's a short week for head coach Matt LaFleur and quarterback Jordan Love. Here's a preview from the Packers side of the game between Washington and Green Bay.
Just trying to get them to plan as quickly as possible to allow them. I mean, there's a lot of information going at them. That's always the challenge, right, on a Thursday night game. So we try to get them the information as quickly as possible and give them time to digest it, to go through it, to get to the detail. And so our guys did a nice job today locking in. I think they all have their challenges. I think a lot of it is just, are you hurt by injuries? That's a big deal on these Thursday night games. How many guys do you have out? But, we had a plan for just our preparation and our process in regards to how we were going to game plan, and we were able to jump ahead a little bit throughout training camp. And then, obviously you take into account week 1, but it's still limited film, and just make some adjustments from there.
Everything you do, you want to start fast. Practice, you want to go out there and execute every play at a high level. And like you said, it's all about the way you start. It starts, just gives you I feel like the energy and just keeps you focused on the day at hand, versus, a bad start, slow start, things like that. But no, I mean, it's one thing that we've focused on, and it's definitely been a big focus for us the past 2 years as well, is just, as an offense, how do we come out, start as fast as possible, try and go down on that first drive and get points, because I think it sets you up for the rest of the game, and it just puts you in a great spot, gives guys that confidence to keep going and executing.
This morning, some big news from the National Football League. Do you remember once upon a time when Bill Belichick was the head coach and Tom Brady moved on to Tampa Bay? There was a quarterback by the name of Mac Jones, whose football card was selling for $1,000. Well, guess who's going to start this week for the San Francisco 49ers? That same guy, Mac Jones. He's back, as Brock Purdy is going to miss 2 to 5 weeks, According to several outlets, including NFL Network and ESPN, Jones was the starter at one point also for Jacksonville when Trevor Lawrence got hurt. So he's no stranger to starting. But Kyle Shanahan, meeting with the media, has got to go over this injury list, which includes a lot of players you may be familiar with, including their starting tight end, their starting running back, and then gave an update as to how long Purdy could miss.
All right, injuries for today. Yetur will not practice, knee. McCaffrey will not practice, calf/vet day. Trent Williams won't practice, knee/vet day. Nick Bosa won't practice, vet day. Brock Purdy won't practice, left shoulder, toe. Juwan Jennings won't practice, shoulder. Jordan James, limited finger. Jordan Watkins, limited ankle. Ben Barch, limited knee and elbow. Go ahead.
Any further sense about whether Brock will be able to play on Sunday?
I think it's a long shot.
George Kittle's hamstring, is there any more details or just a...
No, there's going to be some time.
Is it possible that Purdy's injury could be a multi-week thing?
That's possible.
And that's the toe more so than the shoulder.
Yes.
Turf toe usually keeps players off the football field for multiple weeks. Sounds like that's the case with Purdy. For those of you following along all the injuries in the NFL, the updated point spreads, you can download the SportsGrid app. It's available for iOS and Android. And here's how easy it is to download. Take out your phone and scan that QR code. We're not asking for a review. Just download the shows for free. We'll be back with Craig Carton after this, so don't go away.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Oh, Johnny, then you don't believe in face recognition, do you? Because I can assure you, oh, yes, they do. They absolutely do. They will find that guy in a heartbeat. And by the way, why would you want to go to Vegas? You want to talk about facial red? They won't let you step in a casino. They won't let you step anywhere in
The
there.
Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There's a little bit of a kerfluffle earlier today when there's an exception taken to a punt that wasn't given, and just the reactions were pretty unilateral from both sides of like, hey, that's not behavior that we're going to tolerate at this type of competition.
Can you talk to me about kerfluffle again? Can you run that word back? I've never heard that word before.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. You may remember last week we did a story on the documentary coming out, Roberto Clemente's documentary coming out in theaters today and tomorrow. So make sure you check out that. But there's another really good documentary that's coming out on Amazon Prime Video. And certainly there's been so many of them as it pertains to sports. This latest one is on Owen Hansen. He was a walk-on to the 2004 USC National Championship team. You may remember that team. It was loaded with great college football players. I believe Matt Leinart, right? Reggie Bush, a lot of players on that team. turned into cocaine kingpin. Crazy story. And he shared his story on Front Office Sports yesterday. Take a listen.
Prime Video is going to premiere a 3-part docuseries called Cocaine Quarterback, Signal Caller for the Cartel on September the 25th. Now, the docuseries follows Owen Hansen, who went from being a walk-on for the 2004 National USC team to becoming one of the global cocaine kingpins out there. So joining us now in studio is Owen Hansen. Owen, thanks so much for joining us. So before we get into a little bit about the docuseries and a little bit more about college football, tell us a little bit more about your story and how you became known as the cocaine quarterback.
You know, it just started as, like you said, I was a walk-on at USC. I was actually a walk-on tight end, and it was all by accident. I came in on a volleyball scholarship, and unfortunately I got redshirted, and my coach said, hey, you need to work on your arm strength and your vertical jump. And I said, you know what, I'm going to work on that. And I ended up taking a ride to Tijuana and went down to the Pharmacia, which is meant for veterinarians, and I got on some anabolic steroids. And from there, I smuggled the anabolic steroids across the border and came back to USC, 50 pounds heavier. And instead of, going back into the volleyball world, I ended up walking onto the football team and was part of the last 2 national championships there under Pete Carroll. And got 2 national championships rings to show it, and from there my life took a turn. I ended up seeing my teammates going into the NFL, making these multi-million-dollar contracts, and my fraternity brothers going and working for their fathers, making millions of dollars every year. And I was like, man, where do I fit in? I'm the son of a construction worker, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna graduate from USC, start using that degree, that networking, and that's what I started doing. I worked for a real estate developer. Within a couple years, making 6 figures, and I said, this is good, life's good. And then the recession hit in 2007, and the real estate market crashed, and here I am, lost my job, and I had to figure out something to do. And I said, man, I have the contacts, I have the football players, these kids that are all in the business now. I said, maybe I can be a bookie. Bookie would be good. So that's what I did. I became a bookie. I reached out to one of my father's friends, who's this Italian gangster, and he gave me a job working for a small percentage, and I started booking bets. And I booked bets for, my NFL friends, my A-list celebrity friends, my USC network, and next thing you know, I'm booking bets for one of the most infamous cartels in the world. And I blew this thing out of control and started my own office in Costa Rica. And from there, once I started taking these bets from the cartel, it spiraled out of control. I was laundering money for them. Next thing you know, I'm working for them internationally and becoming their cocaine quarterback and handling all their logistics throughout the United States, Canada, Australia, and basically calling the shots for them as far as where things need to be placed.
Wow, Owen, what a story and what a ride that you've been on. And I obviously a lot of people, especially college athlete stories, are very different, but the struggles for a lot of them, especially up until the last couple of years before NIL came into the picture, were similar in terms of how they were struggling or not able to sort of profit off of their fame in college. Do you feel like your story would have been different if NIL was around when you were playing at USC, that you would have been able to profit off of your name, that maybe you wouldn't have been able to get involved in all of this other stuff?
Yeah, no doubt. I don't think we'd be here today, right, telling my story. NIL's helped so many college athletes, from even the guys like myself who were walk-ons, are getting paid, 6 figures just through sponsorships, right? So, I used my ability to, sell steroids to my teammates, sell cocaine to my fraternity brothers. I used this just to survive. My dad was a construction worker. My mother was a librarian. We didn't come from money. So I had to survive, and I found that the only way I could survive playing 2 sports and going to school was to learn the art of the hustle, and that's what I did. If I had that NIL deal that now everyone's getting today,
right,
I wouldn't have to worry about money in college, and life would be different.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino, but playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour, but online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Oh, Johnny, then you don't believe in face recognition, do you? Because I can assure you. Oh, yes, they do. They absolutely do. They will find that guy in a heartbeat. And by the way, why would you want to go to Vegas? You want to talk about facial red? They won't let you step in a casino. They won't let you step anywhere in
The
there.
Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There's a little bit of a kerfluffle earlier today when there's an exception taken to a putt that wasn't given, and just the reactions were pretty unilateral from both sides of like, hey, that's not behavior that we're going to tolerate at this type of competition.
Can you talk to me about kerfluffle again? Can you run that word back? I've never heard that word before.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Always great to have the great Paul Stone back with us, breaking down some college football. I know it was a great week for Paul last week. We'll see if we can double down on some of the games this week as well. It's great to have Paul back here on the show. Make sure you check him out at Paul Stone Sports. And certainly, Paul, it's great to be back with you here and talking some football. We're going to focus a lot on the SEC, it looks like, this week. And we'll start off with the big game in college football. And boy, if you just closed your eyes and blind bet the Dogs against Tennessee the last decade or so, my gosh, would you make a lot of money? And they're favorites again this week, 4.5 points, total of 49.5 in the great matchup at Neyland Stadium, 3:30 Eastern. I mean, man, the trend is speaking toward Georgia here in this one. Is there any chance that trend changes? Maybe this is one of the better Tennessee teams. At least I can throw that out there that's faced the Bulldogs in the last decade.
Yeah, I'll start out with this. Virtually everyone, I would think, had Georgia ranked in their top 5 in their preseason poll. But, to date, they really haven't shown that. I mean, they have been pretty uninspiring in season opening victories over featherweights Marshall and Austin Peay. So they've looked anything, Georgia's looked anything but like a national championship contender to this point, in my opinion. This past weekend against Austin Peay, they only managed 28 points, averaged less than 5 yards a carry. And you really need to run the ball more effectively than that against a team of Austin Peay's caliber. Just for comparison's sake, last year in its opener against Louisville, Louisville beat them 62-0 and put up 571 yards. So Georgia's offense clearly is sputtering somewhat. The look-ahead line in this game was a little bit over 7 points. The line currently sits at 3.5, so the market is obviously waned somewhat in its enthusiasm for Kirby Smart and the Dogs. But I'll tell you, sometimes, Craig, when the market bobs, I weave, and that's going to be one of these cases. I'm going to side with the Georgia team here that few are looking to support, apparently. First of all, as you mentioned, Georgia's won 8 straight in this series. They've been dominant. They've covered 6 straight in the series. It's just been a rivalry where history's on the Dogs' side. But more importantly than that, the key piece of my handicap and the reason I like Georgia is more fundamental in nature. And what it is that I think Georgia's defense, their front seven, maybe not as great as some of those great front sevens they've had in the last, 6 or 7 years, but still well above average. I think they're going to get after Tennessee's new quarterback, Joey Aguilar. And Joey Aguilar is a guy who in his 2 seasons as the starter at Appalachian State, He threw a total of 24 interceptions, had 51 turnover-worthy plays during the last 2 seasons, according to Pro Football Focus. And looking at just last season, 2024, his 5.4% turnover-worthy play rate was third worst among the 14 quarterbacks in the Sun Belt. This guy's a gunslinger. He also had 26 big-time throws, according to Pro Football Focus, to lead the conference in that category. So he likes his arm, and he's got a pretty good arm, and he tries to force it in some tight spots. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I think Georgia's going to force him in some turnovers. I think they're going to expose those turnover tendencies that Aguilar's displayed in the past. I like Georgia minus 3.5 to go into Neyland Stadium and defeat Tennessee by 4 or more.
Should be a great game, and indeed, great games were not on the slate. Take a look at this. The last 7 meetings, Georgia has dominated 14, 18, 14, 24, 23. I mean, the only time Tennessee covered was when they were just horrible a few years back. So to Paul's point, it's been all Georgia. All right, now another SEC matchup, a key one. Top 20 ranked Ole Miss is at home in Oxford Saturday night, 7 o'clock p.m. against a reeling Arkansas Razorbacks team. But the total I see, Paul, wow, 61.5 here. Is that telling me the Razorbacks defense is not going to be able to stop Lane Kiffin's crew?
Yeah, I think we could see some points here for sure, Craig. I'm going to look at the side, though. Based on a consensus of respected power rating platforms heading into the season, Mississippi projected to be around 11 and a half point favorite this week against Arkansas. And actually on Sunday, Circa Sportsbook there in Las Vegas, that's kind of the market maker putting the first numbers out, they opened Mississippi as a 10-point favorite against the Hogs, but all the money has kind of come in on the Razorbacks. We pushed the line all the way down to 7, but I just don't agree with the move personally. Lopsided victories over Alabama A&M of the FCS and then Arkansas State apparently moved some people's needle regarding the Razorbacks, but not mine. They've got a quarterback, Taylon Green. He's a guy who's very athletic, can make plays with both his feet and his arm. But otherwise, Arkansas, they just don't have a whole lot of top flight SEC caliber players, in my opinion. Mississippi, they've had a lot of turnover on the roster, including their quarterback, Jackson Dart. He was a first-round pick of the NFL's New York Giants. But Lane Kiffin, he likes to go to that transfer portal. He calls himself the portal king, and he does a pretty good job year in and year out. In their game last week, they didn't dazzle against Kentucky, but they handled business in their SEC road opener there in Lexington, beat the Wildcats 30-23. They have a new quarterback starting as well there, Austin Simmons. In his first 2 starts, he's thrown 2 interceptions in both, so he has a total of 4 interceptions in just 2 games. I think he's going to get better as he gets repetitions and experience. I just think this Ole Miss team is better than Arkansas. A line of 7 playing at home infers that Ole Miss's power rating is about 3.5 points better. I think they're better than that. There's a bigger disparity between these 2 teams. So I like Ole Miss minus 7 over Arkansas.
Final game we'll discuss, Paul, and we'll go back to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who, of course, came up short in a very close game against the University of Miami. 2 teams ranked inside the top 20, squaring off, with Mike Elko's Texas A&M Aggies visiting Notre Dame Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern game. Should be a hyped crowd there at Notre Dame. Can they bounce back, you think, Paul, and take care of business?
I tell you, if they want to return to the playoff, Craig, they obviously have to bounce back. This is a Notre Dame team that went to Miami Labor Day Sunday and fell behind by a couple of touchdowns, tied it up at 24, and then lost on a last-second field goal to Miami, 27-24. But this is a team, Notre Dame, they're off a loss, off a bye, and they're firmly on the ropes, can ill afford another loss. Several reasons I like Notre Dame over A&M in this game. First of all, the redshirt freshman quarterback, C.J. Carr, he had never really played hardly at all before starting against Miami. So I think he's going to be much better in his second career start than his first career start. And Carr, first of all, I can see that Miami was playing a little bit soft because they had a 2-touchdown lead at one point. But in the game's final 20 minutes, here are Carr's numbers. He was 10 of 14 passing for 159 yards, 1 touchdown, also threw an interception. Then he carried the ball 5 times for 36 yards and scored on a 7-yard run. So he did a lot of damage the final 20 minutes with both his arm and his legs. But I think what it comes down to is Notre Dame's going to be able to run the football against Texas A&M. The Irish, they've got one of the best tandems in the nation in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. That duo combined for almost 1,900 yards rushing last season. And this is an A&M defense that during the last half of the 24 season and against Texas San Antonio this season, they have had trouble stopping the run. South Carolina last year rushed for 286 yards against the Aggies. Texas 240 in their season opener this year. Texas San Antonio, a group of 5 school, rushed for 203 yards, averaged 6.2 yards per carry. So I think the Irish are going to be able to run the ball at the Aggies. I think they're going to win this one by double digits. Give me Notre Dame -7 over Texas A&M Saturday night in South Mid.
Always great stuff, Paul, with you. Good luck with all the plays this week. Make sure you check Paul out nationwide, doing all kinds of appearances throughout the week, and also at his website, Paul Stone Sports. Make sure you get on board for the remainder of the college football season. Thanks again, Paul. Appreciate you coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Craig. You guys have a great weekend.
All right, Paul Stone here with us. Coming up next, we'll check in with Joe Ranieri. He's got an opinion on tonight's game. And, of course, we'll talk about what the future looks like without Brock Purdy in San Francisco. Injury there. Be right back.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
If a game is on the line,
give me the Navy kicker.
Oh,
the guy's going into battle in 2 weeks. He can't make an extra point. Come on.
From a mindset perspective, yeah. I'm not. Listen, we thank them for their service. I love them. Okay.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if you have a bet and you have an academy kicker with a field goal or an extra point, you got to hold your breath.
27 yards. You know,
27 yards. The kid shanked it from like 30.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
When the game is on the line and provide the kill shot to knock out an opponent. It's like they're afraid to put the Buffalo Bills away. The safer call was giving it to Derrick Henry and giving it to Lamar Jackson on the ground as opposed to putting it in your MVP's hands and allowing him to make plays in the passing attack. I just don't understand it.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
To your point, Craig, if anybody else is able to make a dent, it'll have to happen now. ESPN has had about 3% market share. Their goal is to get to 10% by next year. So if they can't make a big push this year and really see a lot of the new features that they put on their apps, a lot of the integrations with ESPN fantasy products, with ESPN, flagship products across the board, if those don't pay off soon this football season, it might be curtains for them.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great to have Joe Ranieri back in the house with us, talking some pro and college football. Maybe we'll get into college if we have time. Joe, it is great to have you back here on NewsWire. And has it rained as much by you as it has by me? I feel like I may be able to go outside today, right? It's crazy here.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, you know what it is. It gets to be right around that 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the skies have been opening up a lot in South Florida, which is why we should keep an eye on the weather for that FAU, FIU, and Miami, South Florida game coming up this weekend.
Yeah, Shula Bowl game also this weekend. You're right. And then Sunday, Dolphins, Patriots, folks. If you're not paying attention to the weather in this weekend's games in Florida, Joe is right. You're doing it wrong. All right, so let's take a look at tonight's game in the NFL, and then we'll get to the big story in the NFL today, which is, of course, the big injury to Brock Purdy. But first, let's do Commanders, Packers, 8:20 Eastern. Joe, any position on this game tonight? Man, it feels like this is a really tough game to call. That little hook is hanging out there with the Packers. You know, usually that's like a sucker bet. It's like, oh, love that half. Let me take the other side with Washington. Total 48.5. I do think the Packers probably in the end may be better than the Commanders on the defensive side of the ball. But boy, when I saw this game on the schedule last week, I was like, wow, I'll just pick another another game going into the weekend.
It's tough, Greg, because it's a short week, number one. We just watched the Commanders take on the Giants, and although none of us thought the Giants were going to be that great, it was a very sloppy Commanders win. 12 penalties, nearly 100 yards. Not impressed there, Dan Quinn, and I'm not sure in 4 days you're going to be able to clean a lot of that up. Now you got to go in and take on a team that looked like they were in October form, taking on Detroit, which again still was supposed to have one of the best capable offenses in the National Football League. And Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur come out there and absolutely make them look like a preseason team. So yeah. I think it's advantage Green Bay. I get why the line is 3.5. But I split the game in half here tonight, Greg, because I think the game planning is advantage Green Bay at home. What they did in the first half against Detroit was telling. I think they're going to have a chance to do that again here tonight. So I laid the 2.5 with Green Bay in the first half because I think Matt LaFleur is a better play caller and certainly a better scripter than what we're going to get from Dan Quinn.
Yeah, home teams on Thursday night also, usually with the short spreads, tend to play well. Okay, so, Joe, I don't understand this. I'm missing something significant in this game between the 49ers and Saints. So Brock Purdy, it was announced about an hour ago that he's going to miss multiple weeks with a turf toe injury. I understand that. Here's what I don't get. The 49ers were 3.5-point favorites going into New Orleans this week, maybe 4 in some spots. Joe, this line is almost unmoved. Does that mean we're going to get a big movement before Sunday? How is it possible that Brock Purdy's only worth a half a point or a point? That can't be. Saints plus 3 for now, but by the time Sunday comes, will this be pick'em? This can't be right.
No, I think that this was already baked into the number. I think the injury was already known. We just didn't realize it was going to be a turf toe. It was going to be out 2 to 5 weeks. But he was pretty banged up after that game, and we knew that. I think we saw the biggest move from the open, which was closer to a touchdown, down to 4. And now, of course, with confirming that it's Brock Purdy is going to be gone here for a couple of weeks, we've seen it, hover right around that between 3 and 4 points right now. And I think that was already baked in. I think Mac Jones, whether Mac Jones is a quarterback or you go Christian McCaffrey, Wildcat, I don't think it makes a difference against New Orleans. In fact, I don't think it's going to make a difference a lot given how ridiculously easy this 49ers schedule is. They can't afford to lose anybody else. But if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, Mac Jones is more than capable of keeping this train on the tracks until they can get him back.
Yeah, makes sense. And Jones was okay for Jacksonville when Trevor Lawrence was out. Okay, I think is a fair assessment. All right, so let's move on to the next game. We have a Steelers team that's 1-0, a Seahawks team that's 0-1. Seattle's on the road this week at Pittsburgh, so there's the travel element, of course, involved in that. The Steelers, I mean, you could make the case, Joe, that may be their best offensive performance of the season last week. It could be against the Jets. Total's telling us that. It's only 39.5. Bounce back for Seattle, or does Pittsburgh move to 2-0?
Well, listen, I don't think it wasn't Sam Darnold's fault that his, offensive lineman got absolutely crushed into him and he fumbled the ball there, which would have been, I think what a lot of people don't realize or forgot was that was a game-winning drive that he put together, marched them right down the field, put them right inside the 5, and then Bosa blows it up, and that was the end of that. But, yeah, I expect a better performance out of the offense of Seattle. Did Pittsburgh strike you as that mean, like all of a sudden they were just going to stop they couldn't stop the Jets run, and they're going to run the ball in Seattle. So I get the low total, but it's never been a problem, Seattle coming to the East Coast. I don't think it's a problem against Pittsburgh. And how many more times is Aaron Rodgers getting hit here, Craig? I'm wondering.
Yeah, I do like Seattle along with you. It sounds like there too. Okay, so let's cap it off here. Boy, Joe, I mean, the Chiefs 0-2. Could it possibly happen? Philly -1.5 on the road, total of 46.5. I mean, I could even make the line a little bit higher here. I don't like what I see out of Kansas City. By the way, Kansas City could still win their 9-10 games, even going 0-2. But my gosh, I think we could be headed there this week.
Yeah, it will. And forget about the spreads in this game, folks. Just pick the winner. Just pick the winner. Play him on the money line. Listen, neither looked great, obviously, but they didn't look great. Philadelphia in a winning effort against Dallas. Obviously, Kansas City looked good in Brazil in a losing effort against the Chargers. But as an underdog, Andy Reid, Mahomes at Arrowhead, there's no way I can bet against that. So until I see otherwise, I'll take the underdog Chiefs at home. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Underdog Chiefs at home. All right, Joe, enjoy the weekend. We'll hope for less rain.
Yes.
Can't get my son on a baseball field all weekend long, man. All week long. It's been crazy. No practice, no nothing. So I'll root for that,
brutal.
Joe. Thanks. Thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it. And Joe is
Enjoy
not
the
wrong.
games, guys.
It has rained every day in South Florida for hours for the last 5 days. Nothing else going on here but that. Great time to be with you guys, I guess. We'll take a quick break, come back and wrap up our first hour.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
There's a little bit of a kerfluffle earlier today when there's an exception taken to a putt that wasn't given, and just the reactions were pretty unilateral from both sides of like, hey, that's not behavior that we're going to tolerate at this type of competition.
Can you talk to me about kerfluffle again? Can you run that word back? I've never heard that word before.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Who wants to go to Chicago in February for a Super Bowl? Hey, the NFL can host outdoor parties on Lake Michigan. Stop the madness at this point. But now I take a look at the Denver Broncos. Always fun in the Mile High City. Why? Because what a home field advantage. It's at elevation. It's going to be cold. It might snow, and Denver's going to have that advantage. You know what Denver goes? We're going to build a world-class facility that's going to be a dome.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Some big news from golf, by the way, today as well, as Greg Norman stepping down from Live Golf. He, of course, was the first one to get on board with Live Golf, came under a lot of pressure and a lot of controversy from leaving the PGA Tour and jumping into that. But Norman bowing out. Live Golf, unfortunately, folks, could be on the way out as well. We'll see. All right, now let's get to a big sports betting story of the day. 3 men's basketball players have been banned for gambling. That's right. Michael Robinson, Steven Vasquez, Jalen Weaver, probably never heard of them, me either. They were involved in an NCAA investigation tied to sports betting violations. They all played for Fresno State. Eventually, Vasquez transferred to San Jose State. The investigation began after Fresno State and the Sports Betting Integrity Monitor flagged suspicious prop bets that involved the player named Robinson. According to the NCAA, Robinson and Vasquez, they were roommates. They communicated via text in January about Robinson intentionally underperforming in a game that he was playing in, along with a third party placing $2,200 in bets on the underperformance, resulting in a $15,000 payout. He also played fantasy sports as well. You know the deal with sports betting and players. If you bet and you get caught, you're done, and these players will be done. No question about that. All right, now let's move over to the National Football League. Some key injuries in the NFL. We went over the 49ers ones. Now let's get to the Cowboys. Deron Bland, he's going to be out several weeks with a foot injury, so count him out for the Cowboys' upcoming game this weekend. Did you see the video of Lamar Jackson walking off the field and getting grabbed, and then all of a sudden the fan getting grabbed? Jackson, probably didn't expect that to happen at the end of the game and reacted as probably most would. Here is he on the reaction to the fan grabbing him at the end of their game against the Cleveland Browns, or the Buffalo Bills, sorry.
John said that you had a lengthy discussion with Eric about the incident with the fan.
Yeah.
I'm not to share what was said, but have you heard from the league about that, and what's your reaction about that whole thing a few days later?
Yeah, Eric talked to me about it. I mean, I believe everyone seen what happened. Don't get me wrong, I didn't try to, it just happened. Like, I got pushed. I'm like, what? I thought I was like outside. I wasn't even thinking about me being out there on the field, but my apologies to that whoever that was. I don't know who it was. My apologies to him. Like, just chill next time. Just, you can talk trash and stuff, but keep your hands to yourself, man. That's all I can say.
No punches exchanged there, and also none between Malik Neighbors and his head coach, Brian Daboll, in New York, although they did appear to get into it on the sideline and then got over it pretty quickly. It looked like Daboll and Neighbors were hugging it out, but Neighbors for the first time addressing that, let's call, mini incident in their game this past Sunday.
Just 12 targets and 5 catches. Just not how I want to end the day off. I know everybody was more focused on just me overall being mad I wasn't getting the ball. And that wasn't at all what I was being, what I was concerned about. I had 12 targets, so why would I argue about getting the ball if I had 12 targets? But, just overall, just how I played. And I don't think that why I was frustrated. Like I said, I was trying to get the offense going. I was trying to get people to, let's get rolling. The lights was on, the game was on. It's time to play. I feel like that just got pushed over, and everybody was talking about just how I was have an attitude and stuff like that. It's just, I got an NBF. I got a natural face. That's just what it is. Like, it's my face. I don't know. Like, when y'all talk to me, I look the same way every time. I don't know just how I am, but I guess I got a small one.
Let's get to some college football. We've got one game tonight. The big one is between NC State and Wake Forest. Of course, NC State supposed to be better than Wake Forest this season, as the spread would indicate. A total of 52.5. That's a 7:30 p.m. Eastern game, so it'll start about a half hour before the NFL game tonight. Meanwhile, Missouri has lost their starting quarterback, Sam Horn. He'll be out the rest of the season after leg surgery. He was injured in the first game of the season for Missouri. And, of course, they beat Kansas last week, so good start for them. Boy, Wisconsin's in some trouble. Their quarterback, Billy Edwards Jr., not going to play against Alabama. They were already big underdogs in this one. Looks like about 20 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. And also Ryan Williams, the Crimson Tide young wide receiver, is going to be back, and he'll be playing against the University of Wisconsin coming up this weekend. In addition, we do have some other things to get to here on the show, but most importantly, for those of you who are placing sports bets around the country, especially where it is legal, which I would encourage you to keep it legal, you can track all of your bets on the SportsGrid app, which is available on iOS and Android. So here's what I'm going to recommend. Take out your phone and scan that QR code right there, and you can track your wagers. Also learn more about our programming, which includes our brand new show here each and every day. Just before my program, you can catch Craig Carton. He's back on our air from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. We'll take a quick time out here on the show. We come back next. We chop it up with Brady Cannon, who's got his show ready to go for the weekend, previewing the National Football League next.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
There's a little bit of a kerfluffle earlier today when there's an exception taken to a punt that wasn't given, and just the reactions were pretty unilateral from both sides of like, hey, that's not behavior that we're going to tolerate at this type of competition.
Can you talk to me about kerfluffle again? Can you run that word back? I've never heard that word before.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Who wants to go to Chicago in February for a Super Bowl? Hey, the NFL can host outdoor parties on Lake Michigan. Stop the madness at this point. But now I take a look at the Denver Broncos. Always fun in the Mile High City. Why? Because what a home field advantage. It's at elevation. It's going to be cold. It might snow, and Denver's going to have that advantage. You know what Denver goes? We're going to build a world-class facility that's going to be a dome.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Brady Cannon and I have a lot to talk about here, but there's only one place to start, and I'm glad Brady's back with us here on the show, because Brady, who's now been on with me for several years, and full transparency, you know, Brady and I will text back and forth about different stuff throughout golf season and football season. Brady has come on this show, and he has consistently said, look, I'm going to pick the games, I'm going to enter the contests, and I'm going to do my best to help you guys. But if you really want help, here's what you do. You just check out the contest, and you see who everybody is picking, and you just fade that. And I mean, honestly, Brady, that strategy is going to put people like us out of business, because it's the best bet in sports. 0-5 in the Super Contest, and I didn't even know that the Circa was 0-5 too. Like,
Yes.
I mean, the Joes are constantly getting it wrong. I mean, I don't even know if the pros have to be involved in some of these picks. I think you and I both liked Atlanta last week. That went sour. But yeah, like, I'm just gonna wake up Sunday, check the consensus, and then just have at it.
I tell you what, it's not a bad strategy, and you know that's been a common theme for years. You know, let's just go against the public. It was very interesting. First of all, yeah, kind of shocking. And it was pros too, no doubt about it. One of the sharpest guys I know, a professional guy in town, in one of his contests, I think it was Super Contest Gold, which is a $5,000 entry, winner take all. He went 0-5. You know, I saw a lot of guys 1-4. I mean, you know, you talked about the Atlanta game. The Seattle game was a very popular pick that went sideways at the very end. So yeah, there was some wise guy plays that went the other direction. I remember at the beginning of last year, the consensus, going against the consensus, like you say, was a great play for a while. In the end, at the end of the season, it was basically exactly 500. I mean, it was all, I have it here in my notes somewhere, but it was basically exactly 50-50. Wow. But so far, if you're fading the consensus, you've got a lot of money in your pocket.
Okay, so honestly, I listened to your show. I don't remember all of it. I know you and I both wanted to push Jacksonville last week. That was a really good pick. Did you get that pushed onto? I know you liked them. Did you get that on the card?
We did, yeah. And we used that in Circa Survivor as well, Craig. Survivor, the lowest amount of elimination, I believe, in week one in the history of the contest, which I think is 6 or 7 years. Only about 3% of the entries missed out on week one. And that includes 24 people who did not submit a pick. You know, you just always run into that year after year. You never know what the problem is, but some people miss submitting their pick. the deadline. The Denver Broncos were the very most popular pick, and that one got sweaty for a long time. The Arizona Cardinals were very popular. We went a little bit down the board, a little bit less popular, put 2 of our entries on Jacksonville. That got home, and then put 1 of our survivor entries on the Los Angeles Rams, and that got through as well. So we only went 2 and 5. Another one of my teams went 3 and 2. Our contest show went 2 and 3. But again, when the consensus puts up a goose egg, we're two games ahead of the majority.
Now, 573 entries eliminated in Circa Survivor. Is that the correct number that I saw?
That sounds about right. Yeah, a small percentage when you're considering 18,700 are in the field.
Gotcha. Okay. Luke, grab me the Jaguars-Bengals game. I want to hit this right now with Brady before we move on to anything else. So, Luke, grab that game if you could. All right, so Brady, this was my team going into the season that I think was like my Commanders team of last year. People forget on the air I was picking them to go to the Super Bowl. I got laughed at. Jaguars this week again, Brady. I don't know what your card's going to look like this weekend. They're 3.5-point underdogs at the Bengals, total of 49.5. I got to tell you, my temptation is to do it again. My temptation is to go back to Jacksonville here. I really liked what I saw in the first half. I was a little concerned that it seemed like they took their foot off the pedal a little bit and let Carolina at least drive up and down the field before Bryce Young became Bryce Young again. But is that something that you think is possible, that the Jaguars could start the season 2-0? Bengals did not look good at all last week.
I'm right there with you, Craig. The Jaguars were a play that I identified earlier in the week. I made the number 2.5 in favor of Cincinnati, and not only there are some threes out there, but 3.5, getting that extra hook on top of a field goal, I think is a real big deal. Over the summer, the Westgate Superbook made this line 6.5 in favor of Cincinnati, and now they've adjusted all the way to 3.5. So the odds makers are right there with you and I saying, hey, Cincinnati did not look good in week 1. I also feel a little bit like, okay, finally, we got a win in week 1. You know, the struggles that they've had traditionally in the month of September. I got to feel maybe they exhale a little bit. Oh my gosh, we survived. We got one. And then bam, Jacksonville comes to town and smacks them in the mouth. I think Liam Cohen is a good coach, and I don't think Zach Taylor is very good. I think the coaching advantage lies with the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's also another factor here that I like to look at in week 2. A team that finishes in the bottom 10 as far as yards per play in week 1 and then assumes the role of favorite in week 2, not a good recipe. The Cincinnati Bengals were 31st out of 32 teams as far as yards per play in week 1. And I know that Cleveland defense is okay, but you know what? Jacksonville's defense is not bad either. And you're talking about how good this Cincinnati offense is. It didn't do much of anything. She really should have lost the game to the Cleveland Browns. I also think what we can identify out of week 1 is the Panthers, and this love for them to rebound. I don't know. I think this team is still lacking quite a bit. Now, they loaded up on defense in the offseason, but it didn't seem to matter much. They could be a go-against team this year, but I'm with you. Right now, I'm feeling like Jacksonville is a bet-on team.
Yeah, definitely so. And by the way, that hook that's there is going to be there, I think, come Sunday. I don't think that's going away.
I think it might go. I think it might close 3. I've seen some. Yeah, maybe 3 with some juice. Going to be interesting.
All right, no, but we'll see on that. All right, so let's go real quick back to Survivor, then we'll break. We'll come back and do the rest of the games. So the Survivor pick of the week, maybe not 24 hours ago, let's say 48 hours ago, or a look ahead, was taking San Francisco for sure because everyone's going to fade the Saints. Yeah. That's done. So now that's dangerous, of course, with Mac Jones there, as they're going to lay 3, I guess, going into New Orleans. So what will be the Survivor play for most going into this weekend?
Yeah, I think from a strategic standpoint, it might not be a bad idea to try San Francisco anyway. I do think they are the superior team. It's possible you have a little bit of the fallen hero theory there where the team, their star quarterback is out on the shelf. The rest of the team understands, hey, guys, we got to step up, next man up. We rally the troops. We saw the same phenomenon happen last year when Jordan Love went out in week 1. What happened in week 2 when, all the naysayers were going, oh, Malik Willis, this is forget Green Bay. They crushed the Indianapolis Colts in that rebound game, in that fallen hero theory type deal. So maybe that's similar for the 49ers this week. I'm looking at the Arizona Cardinals, and again, it goes back to what I was saying about picking on the Carolina Panthers. That's the first spot I'm looking at. I'm also looking at maybe the Vikings. I don't know. I don't want to get, over the top on J.J. McCarthy. He was extremely bad, if not, average at best in the first half of that game. The Falcons, they let us down in week one. I don't want to fall into a trap in that game. I have to look at that one a little bit closer. Right now, Arizona would be the team on my radar for Survivor.
Yeah, do you think that last week, going back to the Carolina for a minute, and that seems like a good fade, do you think that last 6 weeks or whatever for Bryce Young was just a mirage? Because maybe Jacksonville is better. I think we both agree with that, and we're both going to play them a little bit here, but not that good, right? Like Carolina should have been better than, what was it, 6 points or something going into the fourth?
Yeah, and it probably could have been worse. Jacksonville probably could have scored more. Carolina, I don't think, until we see more. The other thing about what they did down the stretch of last season being a little bit of a facade, those were not real strong teams that Bryce Young, finally improved against. The competition was pretty low. So, we'll see. But I'm not ready to anoint this guy as comeback player of the year.
No way. All right, Brady, stick around. We're going to hit on some of the other games coming up.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
There's a little bit of a kerfluffle earlier today when there's an exception taken to a putt that wasn't given, and just the reactions were pretty unilateral from both sides of like, hey, that's not behavior that we're going to tolerate at this type of competition.
Can you talk to me about kerfluffle again? Can you run that word back? I've never heard that word before.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Who wants to go to Chicago in February for a Super Bowl? Hey, the NFL can host outdoor parties on Lake Michigan. Stop the madness at this point. But now I take a look at the Denver Broncos. Always fun in the Mile High City. Why? Because what a home field advantage. It's at elevation. It's going to be cold. It might snow, and Denver's going to have that advantage. You know what Denver goes? We're going to build a world-class facility that's going to be a dome.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
So what will this week bring in the National Football League? Will all of the consensus picks against the spread go sideways? Let's continue with Brady Cannon and dive into another one of the marquee games. Of course, the Buffalo Bills. I think it goes without saying that it's an easy narrative in this one, Brady, against the Jets. I don't know that it will play out this way. But generally speaking, a team that plays Sunday night for like 5 hours, that has to do everything they possibly can to come back and win, is expected to fall flat the next week. And they are laying 6.5 points at the Jets this week, total of 45.5. I really don't know that I have a strong opinion on this play, but I could only look at the Jets in this matchup after Buffalo needed everything possible to win that game on Sunday.
I totally agree with you. I think you're spot on. And another part of the handicap for me is I think the Jets were pretty darn impressive. I mean, they put 30 some points on the board in a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a heck of a ball game. Garrett Wilson seems like he's their only threat on offense, but not the case. They found other ways to get it done. Justin Fields, maybe the best game we've ever seen him play in his career. They were really good. And hats off to Aaron Glenn. He was a guy that never really impressed me that much as the defensive coordinator of the Lions, but maybe this, homecoming of sorts is a good thing for him, because that was a lot better than we've seen out of the Jets the last couple of years. That's for sure. I think they exceeded expectations, and I think they are in a good spot to make this a much closer game than a touchdown game with the Buffalo Bills. And they do catch a break because of what you're saying, where Buffalo, gosh, the comeback of all comebacks that we've ever seen, just an absolutely incredible game. Yeah, you would think that they would regress just a bit. And now you're talking a division home dog getting a touchdown. I actually took 7 in this one. I bought the half point just to give me that extra little level of comfort. But I did bet the Jets here and take the 7. It could be a contest play for us as well. I have to see what my colleagues think.
No, I kind of like the Jets this week too. Okay, so this is a really, really tough one for me because you got 2 0-1 teams, and sometimes I think you want to back an 0-1 team. It's almost impossible at this point to think that the Dolphins can play worse than they played last week. That's not possible. They had the worst week of anybody, I think, in the National Football League. They take on the Patriots, as we suspected, a little bit overrated going into the year. So South Florida, this time of the year, the Dolphins usually, Brady, are a great bet. They play at home. They put the team on the other side, and it's really hot. I've been there. I know how it works. And then teams usually from the East wilt in that second half of the game. Miami is a 1.5 favorite. 43.5 is the total. I'm going to guess look ahead a few months ago was Miami probably by 3.5 or 4. But I don't know. I don't like New England either. I got to tell you, I don't like the Patriots. I don't like the Dolphins. I think I got to find a different game.
Yeah, it could be a stay away. And the line over the summer was 2.5. And I think that's people expected the Dolphins to be better and probably thought the Patriots, both of these teams underachieved in the eyes of the odds makers in week 1. But I'd be with you. The only way I could go would be Miami. And a lot of it is because of that weather and what we've seen historically transpire here. It seems the Patriots always go to Miami and have a tough time, whether it's September, especially because it's warm. But even if they go there in like December and it might still be 80 degrees and they're used to, 30 degrees there in Foxborough. So it seems like whenever New England, even with the Tom Brady years, that they struggled when they traveled to Miami, the public perception could probably not be much lower on the Dolphins at this point as well. And I think it kind of tells you something that they're favored in this game. They remain favored in this game. So that's the direction I would go. Could be a good contrarian play, could be a stay away. But yeah, it would be Dolphins or pass for me.
All right. So the Denver Broncos, as you said, they had to fight a lot more than they thought they were going to against Tennessee, and the Titans. I don't even know how they stayed in this game, honestly, because they couldn't get anything going offensively, and Denver eventually shut the door in the end. The Indianapolis Colts are at home this week, and they throttled the Dolphins last week, but the odds makers are telling us it's just more about the Dolphins being horrendous than it is the Colts being good, because Denver's favored 2.5 on the road, total of 42.5. So, are you a Colts believer that what we saw last week was legit? Are you a believer that Denver played their worst game of the season offensively? It couldn't get worse for how Bo Nix played with those guys there. What do you make of this one?
Well, first of all, it's interesting. I mean, there's not a huge difference, but you mentioned the 2.5 line there. I believe that's at FanDuel. Maybe DraftKings has it there as well. The majority of the market is at -1 in favor of the Denver Broncos. Now, again, not that there's a huge difference between 1 or 1.5 and 2.5. I mean, it's under a field goal. When you get to 3, things change a lot. But it is, we typically don't see a 1.5 difference in a line, no matter what the numbers are. So I think that's interesting to begin with. But Denver is another one of those teams that ranked in the bottom 10 of the entire league in yards per play in week one. And here they are in the role of a favorite. I'm not just so sure that I want to run to the window with the Colts just yet, because like you said, they beat up on the Dolphins. They looked very good doing it. This Denver team is a different bunch for sure. I think they had a lot of weight of expectations on them in week one as 9-point favorites, 8.5, whatever they were. And, I think Tennessee took them by surprise a little bit. I think right now this would be a stay away for me, Craig. I'm not sure what to think about the Denver offense. That was always my question mark in the offseason. I knew the defense was going to be spectacular, but what about this offense? And sure enough, the offense showed some question marks in week one. And what about the Colts? Are they for real?
Yeah.
We'll probably find out this week.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, Brady. Well, good luck with all of the picks coming up this week, and certainly we'll catch the contest show that's coming up. Is Pritchard back with you guys? What was the deal with that last week? I think at the beginning I heard he was off.
Some guy made a comment on our YouTube page or whatever. Gosh, week one, who is this guy? He doesn't even show up. Well, you know what? He had a pretty legit reason. He had a death in the family, very close to home. So, otherwise, he absolutely would have been on the program, and we expect him to be ready to go tomorrow for episode number 4, episode number 2 of the regular season. We're off and running, man. Contest season alive and well.
Definitely so. All right. So I'll wait for Sunday to fade the consensus, but I will be listening to you guys this weekend. Thanks again for coming on, Brady. Appreciate it.
I hope the consensus goes 0-5 again, buddy.
Me too.
We go 3-2, and we just leapfrog up the leaderboard.
Yeah, the worst feeling ever if you're betting on sports is waking up on Sunday and seeing that you have a pick that's the same as the consensus. Oh.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
If a game is on the line,
give me the Navy kicker.
Oh,
the guy's going into battle in 2 weeks. He can't make an extra point. Come on.
From a mindset perspective, yeah. I'm not. Listen, we thank them for their service. I love them. Okay.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if you have a bet and you have an academy kicker with a field goal or an extra point, you got to hold your breath.
27 yards.
27 yards. The kid shanked it from like 30.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
When the game is on the line and provide the kill shot to knock out an opponent. It's like they're afraid to put the Buffalo Bills away. The safer call was giving it to Derrick Henry and giving it to Lamar Jackson on the ground, as opposed to putting it in your MVP's hands and allowing him to make plays in the passing attack. I just don't understand it.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
To your point, Craig, if anybody else is able to make a dent, it'll have to happen now. ESPN has had about 3% market share. Their goal is to get to 10% by next year. So if they can't make a big push this year and really see a lot of the new features that they put on their apps, a lot of the integrations with ESPN fantasy products, with ESPN, flagship products across the board, if those don't pay off soon this football season, it might be curtains for them.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish as we get ready to wrap up this fun edition of the show, and it has been fun behind the scenes too. You guys are missing out on a lot today. We're going to get to the end of the program by talking about the National Basketball Association, and we'll hear from Adam Silver, also a college football game played that they're going to play in like 30 years from now. Why is this on the schedule? And then also we'll end the show with a reminder as to one of the most important reminders in our country, what we need to acknowledge today here on the show. It's time now for some last licks. All right, as we wrap up the program, Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, as they say, kept it real. How about this? Boy, Adam Silver making it clear to those people who sometimes have issues and carriage disputes, not being able to watch the games. Silver meeting with the media yesterday ahead of the new NBA season, talking about what the future of the NBA holds, and was very surprised to hear him acknowledge that to some degree, and he'll walk this back a little bit, of course, but to some degree, watching the whole game isn't all that important. It's only important to see some of the highlights, calling it a highlight league. How about that? Listen to this.
There's a huge amount of our content that people can essentially consume for free. I mean, this is very much a highlights-based sport, so, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you name it, any service, the New York Times for that matter, to the extent that your content is not behind a paid firewall. There's an enormous amount of content out there. YouTube, by another example, that is advertising based that consumers can consume.
I think that is fascinating that Adam Silver confirms what we all think, which is watching the first half of NBA games is almost meaningless. It really is. Teams that are up 20 points, they end up losing. Teams are down 20 points, they come back and win. And look, we talk a lot of NBA here on the show during the NBA season, but that's kind of why my interest has waned a little bit. I've always thought that the fun part when I was growing up about watching the NBA games, it was the games themselves, but now it's just simply about trades, the transactions, and all the things that happen off the court, in addition to a few highlights. And that's why I just wonder where the NBA is headed. Still wildly popular and making a ton of money via media and streaming, but funny to hear, I think the commissioner acknowledged that as well. All right, coming up, folks, get ready. Get your calendars out. Take out your iPhone, your Android, and put this in your phone. The date is September 15th, 2040. September 15th, 2040? Oh my gosh, my mortality is coming into play here. Will I be watching this game? James Madison takes on Liberty, and that's the furthest contracted football game now on record. It makes me feel old even reading that. The previous record was Troy at Army. They have a game scheduled for September 10th, 2039. It's a rivalry series, and it begins next week with the first of 10 scheduled football games between the two schools. I mean, look, I don't know a ton about the rivalry between these next two teams, but can you imagine like the two schools speaking and saying, "Hey, we got to get a game." Now, I schedule games sometimes for my son's games in travel baseball. We try to schedule games in November, and right now it's September. I don't know about scheduling games 30 years in advance, 20, 30 years in advance, but that's essentially what they're trying to do. Okay, historically speaking, tonight, Yankees and Mets will honor those lost in the September 11th, which is once again the anniversary of worst moment, I would say, arguably in our country, the attacks, of course, in New York City and the Twin Towers. It is the 24th anniversary of 9/11. Yankees and Mets, FDNY and NYPD hats will be available for sale over in the store. I think it's fair to say that we all have memories from that day, where we were watching it. I do remember watching that live as well, and certainly want to make sure that we honor those who lost their lives, especially those first responders who lost their lives crashing into the Twin Towers, trying to help people who ended up either being saved, or sometimes these people lost their lives as well. Some great stuff on social media that honors that today as well. All right, that'll do it for our show today. First of all, thanks to our technical director, is it Carl, who is behind all the technical aspects of the show. I would not be on the show today if it wasn't for him. He had some crazy tech stuff going on before the show today. It was crazy. So thanks, Carl, for getting me back on the air. Also, thanks to our guests here on the program, Brady Cannon, and in addition, thanks to Joe Ranieri for popping on the show as well. And no doubt we want to make sure that we thank Paul Stone from Paul Stone Sports, talking some college football as well. And of course, thanks to our director, Luke, and for my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. All right, another edition of NewsWire. It's a Football Friday tomorrow. It's coming fast and furious. We'll recap the game tonight and also go over the weekend as well. So I hope you have a great Thursday night, and may all your bets be winners if you're placing bets. And I'll see you tomorrow on our next edition of NewsWire, Friday at noon Eastern.